the question is not how much time does it take. The reality is we all have the same amount of time. Is what we're doing with that time.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today's guests, we have a wonderful conversation about multiple emails, multiple calendars, keeping it all straight so we can focus our attention. When we focus our attention and know thy time, we are sharpening our sword and really focused in on the blessings that we have, on the gifts that we have. What is the one thing that we can do that nobody else can do? Well, today's guest is a board-certified pediatrician, a NICU and pediatric hospitalist, and the founder and CEO of Mom and Me MD, an in-home and virtual concierge practice in Atlanta designed to deliver one-to-one personalized care to newborns and their mothers. Everybody, please welcome Dr. Jess Stagel to the show. All right, Dr. Jess, welcome to the show finally.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So we worked on it just a little bit, and I was letting you know, so I'm not a physician, but I work directly with physicians, and the calendar and time is always a challenge. Your time is so valuable. Your attention is valuable. So thank you for coming on and giving us, you gracing us with your presence. And sincerely, it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I love sharing my story and talking to people. So it's wonderful.
Awesome. And I always love digging into systems and integrations and automations and kind of getting going on this, getting you here. We talked about briefly your calendar a little bit off camera here. So we talked about you have the Google Calendar, the Outlook, and the iCalendar. So this is probably something that a lot of physicians have. And then integrating these things. How do you handle all of that stuff? I know you're trying to work to, I would think make your life easier. When I'm running 3 calendars, how do I do that?
Well, really, I just really only started using like Gmail and Google, just because a lot of people tend to like to use that. And I'm trying to get better at using them. I think for me, it's more going to be some things automatically will roll in and it'll ask me on my phone if I want to like save it as an event. I think that's probably the easiest. But Google, it depends, I think, on, I'm still learning them, like where they will pop up in my iCal, because, I have iPhone. So some things will automatically add to my calendar on there. I haven't figured out the things that automatically add and the things that I have to like actively put on together. I'm still working that out actually. I've only had to be concerned with this just in the last 6 months, really, because I picked up in the amount of things that I'm doing, like speaking and meeting with people for partnering and all these things. So I'm going to have to probably, I need to get me a virtual assistant is something I was thinking about.
Ding, 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 ding. And that would have been my next question, integrating all of those. But before we get to that question, Jess, how many email addresses do you have?
Okay. So I probably have like 4 that I would count. Okay. So there's there's 2 associated with my business. One that's more when people want to talk to me directly for like schedule this kind of stuff. And then one I use when I'm more so doing like referral-y type things. And then I have, because I travel as a locums doctor, I have one specifically for that. So like assignments from hospitals and with the companies. So at least I've done that where I can keep that stuff situated. So they only send stuff to that email. So anything related to me working in a hospital, I know exactly where to go. And then I just have the one where all the shopping stuff is going to go. So Amazon and Elephant, because I used to combine that one and my work one. And then it got to be so many emails that people will be like, we sent you that contract for such and such. And I'd be like, didn't see it, because it was getting filtered out by Gap and Target and everybody else. So I created that separate email. So they now know that email is only used for that. And I've even learned about stratifying stuff into folders too. So I'm getting better at that. Mm-hmm. So I do have a quicker system. I star things that are very, very important, which if I probably would have starred our repeat thing, I would have seen it, because I check the starred stuff and flag stuff regularly, because I know that I've either flagged a meeting or something upcoming. So I have a system of sorts. I just need to refine it a little bit more.
Yeah, very interesting in this conversation too. The VA piece is really big, and I don't know why we do this to ourselves with the multiple email addresses, and it's like we try to keep things separate, but when it comes time, now I'm not in any way wagging my finger at you, Jess, because I've gone through this. I know exactly what it is, how it feels, and kind of like that, just that loss, and also being driven by emails is a big piece too. And I kind of, in my process, I got to a point where I just stopped. I know you can't do this, but just stopped emails. I stopped the text messaging thing. I let my team know, this quadrant piece of priority, and, urgent stuff, important stuff, because everything is urgent. Everything's important. Everybody has to have my attention now. And the answer is no, you don't. We need systems and processes in place so that we don't have to communicate like that.
That's so
good. And it was mind blowing when my phone stopped ringing. Like it took some time, but the idea was like, I used to, this phone I'm holding, for the listeners, I'm holding up my phone. This thing used to run my life. And it was insane. Something was always on fire. Something was always happening, but it kind of leads into the lifestyle by design, life by design. There's a path forward that you create.
That's right.
That drives this quality of life. And
I agree.
Yeah, when we have these things, it's like, it's so difficult. So I've been there, asked these questions. There are so many resources to connect, to simplify your life. But one of the first hires, I think I hear you going into this, not necessarily new direction, but new opportunities just of speaking, partnering, those kinds of things. There's more happening in your life. Yeah. So the VA stuff is really interesting. And one of the very first things we did with the VAs is give them a little bit of responsibility and a little bit of access, right? Mm-hmm. With very clear standard operating procedures, very simple, and a lot of the VAs are based in the Philippines. Wonderful, wonderful, very helpful team members.
Yeah.
But it could lighten your load so much.
I believe it.
Never miss an email. You could have 15 email addresses. As long as you have the right SOP, you can get through all of this stuff. So what's keeping you from getting a VA?
I think it was just realizing that it would help, how it would help. I think one of the things is like, I need to study myself a little bit more, like where I'm spending my time, like kind of time map myself. And so I said I was actually going to do that this week. Like when I get up in the morning, what am I doing? When am I looking at my phone? What am I checking? And then if I'm sending an email, what was it about? And if I'm checking this, like that kind of thing. So I just only really recently, like a few days ago, said, I need to do that. I need to study myself in that way. I think too, like the sense of relinquishing control and of it, like, because I'm like that at the hospital too. If I don't do it, is it really going to get done? And just even recently, I was at a conference and I gave the singer one of my information, and she wanted me to give it to her assistant. And but I didn't have a paper on me at the time. So I said, okay, I'll go sit down in my seat and try to get it to her. But then she was gone backstage and all the things. So I went to one of the folks that was one of the helpers, for the conference people, because, they have access to them. And I was like, hey, she asked for my information. So, I'm trusting her to get this done. So then the next day, they're like, Dr. Chess, she's looking for your, information. I was like, I gave it to, and then I'm trying to describe the person who I gave it to. So then this other person's like, give it to me. I will make sure she gets it. I give it to her. And then still so then they finally just bring me in there while she's rehearsing. She's like, I've been asking for your information. I'm like, and I've been giving it to people. Mm-hmm. So it's that same, like, see, if I would have just gave it to her directly myself at that time, I would have missed all these steps. So it's that same kind of feeling, like, is this person going to follow through on what, you know, they need to do? Yeah, I deal with that at work, you know, and I guess, you know, I'll have a patient, like 2 weeks ago, I had a kid that came in that had a bone infection, and we were trying to organize with like MRI or something. And so they knew that we needed to have it done at 6 a.m. He's going to not be in PO after midnight. And so, you know, the time comes around, I put in parameters, I come, and they're like, it's not done, or something wasn't done. I can't remember specific. And then I'm thinking, like, well, this is your patient too, like, to the nurses. I said, whenever it came time and you didn't see MRI call or whatever, why didn't you think, let me call and see what's going on? Like, why do I have to be the person to come and be like, can somebody call and see what's going on? Like, why aren't you as engaged? And so I deal with this all the time. And I feel like I feel this that same way in my business. Like, if I'm going to make sure that it got done, I need to do it. But I know it's not true in all the ways, but I keep having these experiences that reinforce that belief.
Yeah, I hear you. And the more that we get into business as an entrepreneur, the farther we get away from the product, the most of the time. We get into the people piece.
Yeah, we do.
And, oh my goodness, I've ran this race with you, Jess. And my analogy is, okay, I don't know if anybody's was that Will Ferrell movie where he's running. It's an older, Will Ferrell's crazy. Anyway, he's like, come on, we're streaking, everybody, come on. And he's running through, and he's running. And then he looks up and nobody's around him. So bad analogy is me in a business that I take off running and people are with me, and I look to my side and nobody's there. Right. It's hard to find that, the person that you're looking for. Now, don't let that keep you from finding that person.
That's true.
That thought will keep you from finding that person.
That's true.
But also in those regards too, like with perspective of the VA, this is a process that you get to control. That nurse, not likely yours. Just hearing you're not in a smaller private practice.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Not necessarily under your control, but this is. So if you create solutions that you do have the control of, not that you have to control everything, but you can control the process.
I can.
And
you're right.
Therefore, you also control the people who you surround yourself with. So don't let those pieces keep you from moving in that direction. And if you think about it, the time blocking is amazing. Know thy time. I know there's a couple of exercises to go through every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes. Write down what you're doing every 30 minutes for an entire week. And you really get aware in those moments of what you're doing, what's going on. Because it could be some things that are like emails. I mean, how many times are you checking the email? Not being rude, Jess, but I'm seeing you look at your phone while we're talking here. You know,
my mom texts me, "Did you make my flight yet?"
So also VAs can book flights. Now those
that's good.
Things, you want to start little with responsibility, little with access. You get these little things down. Start with a VA, Jess, and just start with the shopping email. It's something that simple, because let's think about it. How bad could it be if a shopping email gets messed up, right? And the other side of it would be the physician related stuff. And obviously, I'm sure there's not necessarily license, but there's responsibility issues. Now that's something that you would have.
Yeah, I probably would reserve the right to manage that one, but at least the other stuff with my business, they could. Yeah. So because there's there's only some things only I can do, like in terms of filling out my stuff. Yeah.
And then that comes in that quadrant of, urgent, priority wise. I have to look back at when we did this.
I know you're talking about the 4. I have a screenshot of that in my phone, actually. Yeah. Like the 4 boxes.
What requires a direct connect with me? And there's so many people, like it was crazy. When my phone stopped ringing, it was insane. I'm like, is there anybody in there still? I'm still important. Don't you?
Yeah. Like, does anybody care to talk to me?
Right. But it's that exercise of know thy time. I can't remember which book it was, if it was 4 Hour Work Week or something like that, or The One Thing. I think George Keller wrote that book. Awesome. Both of those books, great books, and really understanding where you're at, because that allows you to step up and really value your time, Jess, because what makes you so valuable is your attention. And when you can't give that attention intentionally, when people steal that from you because of the system you've created, the system that you allow, you're devaluing your time, you're devaluing your blessing that you have.
That's right. Coaching me today, Brett.
Come on with it. And it's all unsolicited. I do apologize.
No, I love it. I always think you know what? I needed to hear that. You're just confirming what I've already kind of been aware of. I'm reading Amy Porterfield's book, 2 Weeks Notice. And not that I'm giving it 2 weeks notice, because I control my time anyway already. Yeah. But she talks about like creating what's called like tiger time. And it's like, this is whatever, if you've decided from 9:30 to 11 on Mondays is your time, you're going to work your business. No one else. You got to be like a mama, like tiger, like a tiger's you're going to protect your territory. That's how you have to be. And when I was thinking, while I was reading on the flight back home from the conference in Chicago, I really paused and thought about, I'm going to study, like, where am I putting my time? Even as simple as when I got home and my house was a mess, and I told my husband, like, what have y'all been doing? But I was like, you know what? I'm going to invest in like some house, like we need to invest in someone to come and just clean up this place sometimes, like even if it's like twice a week to do, because previously I would do it because I'd be like, it really only takes this much time, but that's the wrong question. The question is not how much time does it take? The reality is we all have the same amount of time, is what we're doing with that time, right? So yes, it may only take me an hour to do the laundry, but if someone is using their hour to do that, then what could I be doing with my hour, right?
Come on.
And so that is, I was like, I've been asking myself the wrong thing. Like I could be doing something else with that hour.
Yes, I'm going to layer in on top of this is, what could I be doing with that time? That's a big piece. What could I be doing with that time? And then if I can block that time together with something else, it's massive. Outsource. Get out of those $5, $10, $15 an hour jobs. Get rid of it. Learn, implement, outsource. You know how to do this. You can implement your process or your procedure. Go ahead and outsource that, because then you can start putting this stuff together, which is really remarkable. Another piece of this is the psychology piece that will stack. When you come home and you see it, there's a feeling that you get that's going to affect your actions.
Yep. You're right about that. But I've gotten so much better at self-coaching, because the old me, when I came home and saw everything fell apart, I was like, you know what? I'm going to let them deal with that whenever they deal with it. I helped my son do his project and I promptly went to sleep.
Yep.
However it was how it was. And my husband got up and finished the laundry, because he said, I always just do this when the kids are asleep. I'm like, Yep. And then, but I was proud of my emotional mastery in that moment. Because that's something I've been working on too.
Stoicism is another direction of managing those things. The last piece too of this is when there are interruptions, this idea that we can, what's it called? Multitask.
Yes.
Fallacy, right? Just imagine sitting with your patient and the bone patient that you just had there, the bone infection patient.
Yes.
And, you had an Instagram message or something, and you pop it on your Instagram when you're speaking with this child and their family. What do you think that would do to not only your focus, your ability to bring that care, bring that solution to the family, and then pop back, right? So if you just think in that kind of perspective on everything you do, we all have our own path. We have our own stack of experiences along this journey, which give us a massive blessing of opportunity in itself. And if we don't lay these things together in order to shape, nurture this path that we're on, and time block,
Time block.
then we're not going to get to it, right? We're not going to be able to make this happen. So
You're right. You look up and then be like, what have I been doing for, and so I actually love using my phone to time myself with things. I actually do it when I'm at the hospital because I used to get distracted. Again, that urgency thing, like the nurses will come and want to insert their, hey,
stress.
This patient or this. And it's not even in on purpose. Everybody's moving from their own perspective, right? Like a patient just told them this, or they just asked them this, and they want to make sure they don't forget to tell me so I can remember to address it with them. So I just now on my list, I write down, okay, this is what it is, but I have said I'm going to take this hour to finish these notes, and I'm going to take this hour to finish these notes unless somebody is dropping a baby out of themselves right at this moment. That had helped me because I would be so distracted and going to solve everybody else's stuff. And the thing is, I can do a lot of the stuff that they can do, but they can't do a lot of stuff that I can do. You can't come and sit down and write my notes, but they're going to make sure all their stuff is documented before they leave before the end of the day. But I'm still there past 7 or whatever, trying to write a note on a patient. So I was like, I had to get wiser on my time in that too. And like, where are the distractions coming? So I'm very good at studying myself. It's so important. You have to study yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Self-realization, masterful.
Yes. It's a game changer.
Yes. And I guess in this path too, as an entrepreneur, we may have more opportunity in this path, but the idea of building leaders. And when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, can you do this? If I have the opportunity to say, hey, how would you do this? And if I can show them to grow them, it is huge. But that was a fun one, huh? If we can do this in the W-2, in the bigger area, in the corporate world, it may be a little more challenging where in the private area, and I have a select few that I choose to have around me.
That's good.
I can do that, right? And it helps them understand, I guess, persuade or understand that you got this.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
This, right?
Yeah, that's true. And teaching and empowering them to, and I've started to learn to do that a lot more. I know a lot of times the nurses, in particular at work, will, because, they'll tell the patients the same thing, but for some reason they really want to hear it from the doctor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can understand.
But you're right. In my own business, I definitely can, as I expand, because that's one of the things I was challenged on this weekend in this conference is about, like, recruit and train is what you have to be willing to do to grow. All right. And things like that too. So my mindset is being challenged in good ways.
Yep. I would add to that point of raising leaders. I think that's the biggest piece. That's where you can multiply yourself. If we go out and we look for somebody who can do 80% of what we can do in the business, then we're in a good place, right? We're in a good place. I will never find or grow that relationship if I'm maintaining this idea that if I don't do it myself, it's not going to get done. I'm the opposite of that spectrum, Jess, because I will give you everything. I give you all my trust. I'll give you all the responsibility. And then all of a sudden I look up and you're taking a week off or something like that. How sick? We work virtually. You can't have a sick day. Come on. You're not going to get anybody in the office sick. Come on with it. But that's not going to keep me from taking those steps and making those.
That's true. I just got to treat it like when you have a resident. Yeah. Like when I've been working, and I think that's why the Lord is moving me into this place where I'm going to be working with residents again, because I've been only solely working just by myself, obviously with the nurses and stuff. But now I'm going to be working with residents again. And I had some that I worked with about a week ago. And it was that kind of frustration of, I got to let them kind of go a little bit and then like follow up. But I didn't die. My husband's like, see, you didn't die. Yes. But it did help me to understand about like that, and in part, but also equally learn from them too. Right. So Absolutely. It was good. Yeah. So it's, and when I did that when I was a fellow too, like the way to do that is, you're right, have some projected, oversight. For example, like if you round in the morning, then you have a sit down rounds in the afternoon, like a recap. Okay, at 2:00 we're going to meet and we're going to recap So that way, if something didn't get done or gotten forgot about, there was still time to resolve it, right? Versus like you went a week and the person was on vacation or something like that, you know. So there's ways to do it. It's just really putting a system in place and studying it, you know, plan, do, study, act, like the PDSA cycle, like we like to use in research. So you plan it, you do it, and say, that didn't really work. We actually need to meet at 12 o'clock because 2 o'clock is too late. Yeah. And so just using those kind of skills.
Awesome. All of that. If you are managing and working with residents, you can take all of this other life stuff that we've talked about and implement those kind of situations and mitigate the things that are stealing those things that you are blessed with, right? And pulling away those $5, $10 an hour jobs and really getting to a point, if you can find that point where you're focused and your time blocks are focused on that $1,000 an hour task that you can do that your nurses can't, or you can do and nobody else can with $5,000 an hour jobs. Yeah. That's where our gift comes. And it's like present. Now I'm sitting here talking and I don't know what mine is, right? I don't know where we're at. I still struggle with time blocking thing. I have checklists that I will sit down and write all my checklists out. And the listeners, I'm going to show her this beautiful book that I've got. Look at that. All of that.
What? You need to put some blocks around that.
Yeah, we're at the end of this thing too. So I don't do Post-it notes. I do journals and there's so many things. I'll focus on priority. I'll write a checklist, but that's busy stuff. Yeah. I'm going to focus on priority. So where I can put my gift, I don't even know what my gift is, right? But if I'm keeping in the right direction where I'm focused on the things that only I can do, that only Brett can do, then that's keeping me in the right direction, I feel. And don't let me get this wrong either. I have so much to work on. I have so much. I know I should be journaling more. I know I should be doing 30 minutes a day of self-reflection because these thoughts come through our mind and they, if it's meant to be, we will never forget it, right? It's going to be presented to us until, God just says, come on, I've showed you this how many times? Get
exactly.
With it, right? So if it's meant to be, I won't forget it. But all of these things where I could keep sharpening my sword, if I'm not writing them down, if I'm not reflecting them, if I'm not focusing my attention on these things, I'm just going to be busy and life's going to be over.
That's true. I agree. And even for me, I just say, you know what? Even things like this, like podcasting, interviews and lives. And I said, you know what? I even need to streamline those things where I decide that these are the days of the week that I will do that. And if it doesn't fit in that day, then maybe I'll just have to push it to whatever other, because my week and days are being filled with all this stuff running through from 9 to 1. And I've been operating off of I'm off. But that doesn't mean that you need to be filling all your day with that, right? And so, again, what's the right question you should be asking? Or sometimes we're asking ourselves the wrong question.
Well, I've got a question for you is, will you come back and join us again? So we can talk about some real estate and some other stuff.
Yes, I will. Awesome. I will come back. We can do a part 2.
Awesome. Let's do that. And until then, everybody can find you on momandme_MD, and we can talk more about your passion, your path into medicine. We didn't talk anything about that.
No, but this was helping me.
I love where this went. Yes.
I love where this went too. I think you got to be able to flow.
That's awesome. Well, here we go. Mom and Me MD. That's _MD on Instagram. You can find Dr. Jess. Dr. Jess, thank you so much for your time today. And the listeners out there today, hopefully we got some value. This was wonderful because when I talk, I'll listen. And when I hear, those are really important things. Oftentimes when we teach, we actually learn. And like I say, there's so many things that I've got to do personally. And if we can share these stories together, because Dr. Jess is not the only one out there with multiple emails, with multiple calendars, multiple venues in which are requiring your time. So let's keep talking about these things and sharing, because that's when we grow. When we share, we grow. So thank you again for your time. And to the listeners today, thank you so much. This is the Real Estate Mogul MD.